Hello and welcome to Sunday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, and another puzzle today by Ukdos, aka Akash Jain, whose puzzles I've been noticing have been they've all been getting seriously high ratings over on Logic Masters Germany, and I should have really picked up on this before, so that's my bad. But Akash is clearly a very, very good setter indeed, and I hope he'll appear more often going forward. Before we get to this one, a couple of things to mention coming up on Patreon. Tomorrow morning, if not tonight actually, we'll release Mark's most recent solve of the beastly Times Monthly special cryptic crossword. So if you're a fan of the cryptic crossword content on the channel, definitely check that out. It's always worth watching. It's one of the videos that I watch with a degree of glee, because it's one of the very rare times you'll see Mark struggle with anything. And then, of course, it's getting very close to the 1st of October when we will be releasing Scott Strossal's new puzzle hunt. I'm very excited about that. It's a super challenge with some absolutely brilliant puzzles. So yeah, do check that out. Coming, well, when's that? 3 days away. Also, just a quick plug for yesterday's video. We've been getting a lot of really nice comments about the main video yesterday, which was my solve of this new incredible thermo Sudoku from Mitchell Lee, the man behind the Miracle Sudoku. I mean, it's a very long video. It's 50 minutes because I wasn't clever enough to do it more quickly, but the fact that I did it at all is a source of some pride to me, I think, and even Mark was moved to call me to express grudging admiration. So it's worth watching if you're interested in mad break-ins to puzzles. That's certainly up there. Now, today's puzzle, let me read you the rules. Quite interesting rules today. We've got normal Sudoku rules apply. In cages, digits must sum to the small clue given in the top left corner of the cage, and digits may not repeat within a cage, so that's obviously absolutely standard killer Sudoku stuff. Now, the purple line represents a 21-digit palindrome, the ends of which have to be deduced, i.e. the first digit and the last digit lie adjacent to each other on the purple line. So that is quite a seriously interesting constraint. I'm not sure what this palindromic line reminds me of. Probably shouldn't tell you, because the psychologists out there will be able to tell that I am completely and utterly mad if I do. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you think that looks like. I don't know. But the way to play the puzzle, of course, to click the link under the video as usual. With that, let's get cracking and see how to solve this latest puzzle by Akash. By the way, this has 5 stars out of 5 for difficulty on Logic Masters Germany, which is a little bit worrying. And the first thing I'm seeing, as I suppose I look at this, is that an awful lot of low digits in and around the palindrome. I don't know, that cage has got to be an 8 or a 9. There we go. Well, let's get some pencil marks in early to make us think we're making progress. Okay, well, I might be missing something simple here, but the cages are not, well, they're not marvellous, are they? They really aren't. I mean, there's a couple of columns that have, well, 5 digits in cages, but the numbers in these cages are not enough. I mean, 19 and 7 is 26, so I know those 4 cells add up to 19, because the whole column must add to 45, because it will contain the digits 1 to 9, and we know that, but 19 in 4 cells, that is not particularly restricted. So I'm going to look at the palindrome. We're going to have to look at the palindrome. Now, what do we know? It's 21 digits long. So it has a middle. That's what we know. Yeah, okay. Okay, we can think about this, because if you think about the word Hannah, Hannah is a palindromic name. It begins and ends in H. So it's the same with a number line. If it's palindromic, it begins and ends with the same digit. Now, in the Sudoku context, therefore, that's quite powerful, because that means, for example, those 2 squares can't possibly be the start and the end of the palindrome, because if they are, obviously they'll be the same digit and they'll be in the same column and the same box of the Sudoku, which will break the rules of Sudoku. So this is a massive constraint actually. So this, on this palindrome, the first digit and the last digit of the palindrome have to be, they have to cross a box and they have to be diagonal, because otherwise it won't work. So that is a possibility. Let's have a look. Is that? That's a possibility. That's a possibility. That there are actually several possibilities. That's a shame. I thought I was onto something. So in fact, all of those cells are possible starts and ends of the palindrome. Now, I just wonder whether we can use this 8, 9. Yeah, okay. Well, this was one possible start and end of the palindrome. But this doesn't work. And that's because, let's imagine we put, I don't know, 1s into there, because we know the start and the end must be the same digit. Well, as we move away from this digit and this digit will be the same. This digit and this digit will be the same. Now you can see that's impossible. So this might be how we're meant to start the puzzle. It might be possible to eliminate which of these possible starting and end positions are actually possible. This one is not, because it would put an 8, 9 into this square and it's a 6 cage. So we can delete that, we can get rid of the colour, and we can go on to this one. So what's wrong with this one, if anything? So what is wrong with it? Oh yeah, this breaks immediately, because 2 cells along the palindrome takes you to this square and this square, which are in the same box, so that doesn't work. We can get rid of that one quickly. Now this one, let's have a look at this one. One, 2. Oh no, they're not quite in the same. 3. Oh, it's the third position in the same row. I think it is. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. It is. That cell and that cell are in the same row. So that one doesn't work. This is going brilliantly. So now let's look at these two. We've got... so it's going to mean that one and that one. I can't see anything wrong with those two. That one and that one. No, can't see anything wrong there. That one and that one. That one and that one. That one and that one. Oh, maybe it's to do with the 8, 9 again. Maybe that will help us here. Yes, it's going to. It's going to. Look, because after this, these two, we go that one and that one, which is still fine. But now we've got to go to this one and this one, and that most certainly is not fine. I can't put 8, 9 in the 7 cage. That one disappears. So this one now. Surely that's going to break the 8. The 8, 9 is going to break again, isn't it? Because 3 cells on, 1, 2, 3, and 3 cells on from this one is in the 8 cage. So this would have to be an 8 or a 9, and that's impossible because we can't put 0 in this cage. Not even if I was in my new software would I be allowed to do that. So, in fact, I'm now starting to wonder whether I made a mistake because... Oh, in fact, I've just deleted the wrong thing as well. Hang on, let me go back. I've got to delete things that are diagonal. They'll be better to delete. So I think this is the start and the end of the palindrome. But of course, the only way of proving that is going to be... It's sort of like proving a negative. I've got this by disproving all the other possibilities. So let's... Actually, I should check this just in case I've made a boo-boo. So if this is the start and the end of the palindrome... I guess the palindrome's got a middle, hasn't it? So, just trying to think about this for a second. If this is a palindrome, 2, 2. Okay, yeah. So I always worry about this. I always think I'm going to get the wrong distance away. But you can see on a 5-cell palindrome, how far away is the middle away from the edge? It's always 2 away, 1, 2. So we always deduct 1 from the total length of the palindrome, divide by 2, and that's how many cells we move. So if this is a 21-cell palindrome, I've got to go to 10 cells from this square. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think this is the centre of the palindrome. Let's make that square. We can make that one blue as well. So if this is the middle of the palindrome, that means those 2 digits are the same, etc. So this might make it a bit easier to track what's going on now. So let's go through this and see whether or not we can see any immediate problems. So those 2 have to be the same. These 2 have to be... No, not these 2. What am I talking about? What am I talking about? Those 2 have to be the same. So that gives us an 8-9 pair in row 3. Okay, well that's okay. That's not in and of itself saying we've got anything wrong. Those 2. These 2. In fact, what I'm going to do is whenever I get similar digits where I know something about a digit, I know this has to be in a 7 cage. So these 2 are restricted. So I'm going to colour them. That one is restricted. I'll make it keep going different colours. This one is restricted because it has to, and on this side it's actually restricted both sides. Restricted by the 9 cage here and the 8 cage on this one. This one is restricted. Oh, 2 cells in a 6 cage, so that's less good. The 9 cage has to map onto the 7 cage. Let's make that one. I'm running out of colours here. That one. And this one. Okay, this is good because this is the last cell on the palindrome that is in a cage. So its mirror is there and that is working around the centre. So those can be yellow. Right, so all of these positions are the positions where the palindrome is mapping onto a useful digit or a restricted digit. So what does that mean? Sorry, this is where it all gets a bit more tricky. I'm not seeing a great deal, I have to say, actually. Maybe this was not the right thing to do. Well, the thing is, there's nothing else to do. So I am going to just spend a moment or two staring at this because it's more because if I don't stare at it and find anything, I'm not sure what I'm going to do next. So it just doesn't feel like there's much going on. I mean, knowing that there's the same digit in a 6 cage is not helpful. So maybe it's the 7. Yeah, this. Oh, it might be the 7 actually. It might be the 7 because the green cell is quite interesting. In fact, they're both a bit interesting because this purple and this green cell, you can see they actually see the whole of that cage. So whatever we put in this 7 cage can't appear in the 19 cage. And the reason that's interesting to me is whatever is in the green cell also can't appear in this 7 cage. So we've got 2 7 combinations which are different because this cell cannot, whatever's in this cell would rule out that combination from this 7 cage. We've got 2 different 7 combinations which can't appear in the 19 cage. Now that is interesting because what would happen if these 2 7 cages contained, say, 2, 5 and 3, 4? If I can't put 2, 5 or 3, 4 in the 19 cage, how on earth can I make 19? The answer is I can't. I can never put 1 in a 19 cage because the other 2 digits would have to be 9, both 9, and that's going to break the rules of Sudoku. So if I can't use 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5, the minimum I could put in there would be 6, 7 and 8, which add to 21. That's not going to work. That means that one of these 7 cages is a 1-6 pair. Now this is all of a sudden getting... So if this is a 1 or a 6, this is a 1 or a 6, this is an 8 or a 3. I thought this was going to be really... This felt important, didn't it? You know, sometimes when you're solving and you feel you've had an insight that might matter. Well, I feel I've had an insight that might matter. So if this was 1 and 6, if this was 1 and 6, that digit's restricted because this 8 cage can only be 3, 5 now because it couldn't be 1, 7 or 2, 6. So this would be 3, 5. That would be 3, 5. I'm just going to stare at that for a sec. If that's 3 or 5, what does that mean? Is that a problem for the puzzle? This is now going... I can go further than this. If this has to be 3 or 5, because this is a 3-5 cage, this can't be 5. Because if it's 5, this has to be 5-4, and that breaks the 6 cage beneath it. So this continues to be interesting. So this square would have to not be 5. It would be 3. That would be 6. Oh, and that is gorgeous. What a gorgeous idea. That is absolutely stunning. Look, this can't work. This cannot work. Because this 6 sees the green cell in the box and it sees the purple cell in the row. Now this started from the predication that this was a 1-6 pair, but now putting this 6 here means this simply cannot be a 1-6 pair. That is lovely. So the way that it sort of feeds through the 8 cage into the 9 cage via the 6 cage, plonks the 6 there, and the colouring breaks the... I love that. That is gorgeous. That is absolutely gorgeous. So we can go all the way back, and we know this is not one. So this is a 1-6 pair. Still no digits in the grid, but this is definitely progress. So this is a 1-6 pair. So this is an 8-3 pair. Not really a pair, but you know what I mean. This is the equivalent of this 8 cage. Look, once you get the 1-6 here, you get the 3-5 here. That's a 3 or a 5. Oh, okay. If this 3-5, look, this forcing this to be a 3-5 creates a 3-5 pair in row 8. Well, that fixes that this is not 3. So that's 8, that's 1. That's 1, that's 6. The 6 cage now can't be 1-5, so this is 2-4. That 6 is grey. That means this is a 2-4-6. This is just absolutely brilliant. I love this. Now, keep going. So this square now, we know this 7 cage is either 2-5 or 3-4. So this bottom cell can't be 2 or 4, so it has to be 3 or 5, which means that has to be 2 or 4. Now if we map these over, that's 2 or 4, that's 3 or 5. This 8 cage is now not 3-5 because of this square, so this is 1-7 or 2-6. It's nearly restricted, I think. Sorry, I'm a bit stuck again. Maybe I don't know whether it's better to look at this from the 8 cages perspective or from the 9 cages perspective, because the 9 cage is also a bit restricted. That can only be 3-6 or 1-8. Oh, this might be better. Look, because 1, 6 are both impossible there. So 3, 8 are impossible here. So this, right, yeah. So now this red square is a 1 or a 6 by focusing on this box, which means it's a 1 or a 6 over here, which means this is a 7 or a 2. And oh, okay, well 5 now. 5 in this box must be in one of those two cells by Sudoku. Okay. Okay, well we're nearly, I think we're nearly on the right track, just not quite. I love ideas like this though. This is so original. You know, just to plonk a palindrome on here and to make it work with this beautiful logic. It is quite stunning. Okay, but now I need to spot something else. There's no 6 in the 19 cage. I don't know enough about the ways of making 19 in 3 cells to know if that's particularly useful. It doesn't feel particularly useful. There's no 8 in the 16 cage. Okay. Let's think about that. If there's no 8 in the 16 cage, is it possible there's no 9 in the 16 cage? If there's no 9, you've then got to use 7, because 6, 5 and 4 only add up to 15, so there's got to be a 7 in here. And that is impossible. That's impossible. Look, what are the ways of making 16 if you use a 7? Well, one way is 763. Let's look at this way first. There are only 2 ways. 763. What's the problem with 763? Well, how are we going to make this work? This cage here. Because once this can't be 7, it has to be 2, and that plonks a 6 there, which clashes with the 6 we've just put in. So 763 doesn't work. The only other way that could work is 745. Now, what's the problem with 745? Well, the problem here is the 7 forces this to be a 2-6 pair, but the 4 forces this to be a 2, so you get a repeated 2 in the column. That also doesn't work. So that means there is a 9 in here. Why does that matter? Well, that square suddenly gets resolved. That's an 8. Now that's on the palindrome, and just by Sudoku we resolve it that way. That's not 9 anymore. 8 must live in one of those 3 squares at the top by Sudoku. Now, is that all I get for that? That feels... no, I don't. Look, I get an 8 there by Sudoku as well. And... okay, now I'm going to look at this, because I've just noticed I need to add 7 to the 9 in order to get up to 16. Now 7 in 2 cells can be 1, 6, except not here, because this is a 1 or a 6. That would make that impossible. So this is either 2, 5, 9, or it's 9, 3, 4. So it's either 2, 5, 9, which would, if this is 2, 5, 9, it forces this to be 7, 1. Or it's 9, 3, 4, and that forces this to be... so it's always 7, 1. Again, this 6 cage comes into its own and sort of throws up a 2, which throws a spanner in the works of the 8 cage. So it's never possible to put 2 and 6 in here. This is always 7 and 1. Which bizarrely doesn't actually resolve this or this, but it does give us a 7-1 here, which, doesn't do anything. Oh no, it does do something, because the red is on the palindrome. Oh, good grief. So the 1 goes there, which gives me an 8. There must be a 1 in one of those two cells. That's not 8 anymore. Oh. Oh, so is that going to help me with my... Is that going to help with my 19 cage? It probably is, because if there's no 8 in there, we know there must be a 9 in there, because 7 plus 6 plus 5 only adds to 18. So there is now a 9 in my 19 cage, and how am I going to make the other domino add to 10 when I can't use 1, 9, 2, 8 or 4, 6? Well, it's going to have to be 3, 7 and 9. So this is 3, 7, 9, which means that square's a 5. And that maps there, which means this is a 2, this is a 2, and suddenly the puzzle is, I'm not going to say anything. The puzzle's still absolutely impossible. Absolutely impossible. We've got no chance of solving it. This cell is a bit useless because that's the centre of the palindrome, so it doesn't reflect onto anything. That square's got to be a 2 or a 4, looking at the column. So that flurry of activity doesn't seem to have unlocked the puzzle, does it? So what is it that I'm meant to be spotting here? The 10 cage, maybe? That can't be 1, 9 or 2, 8. So this is 3, 7 or 4, 6. If it's 4, 6, we can limit it a bit. And the 3. The 3 would also have to be in the bottom. So this... Oh, and these two squares are on the palindrome as well. So what can that be? This can only be 3, 6, 7... it can't be 3. So what are the options for this square? 6, 7 and 9. Oh, but it can't be 9 because that square is the reflect... These two squares are the same. So this square... Let's just focus on this square first. This can be 3, 6, 7 or 9 in theory. It can't be 3 because there's a 3 here. So this is 6, 7 or 9, which means this is 6, 7 or 9. But it can't be 9, which means that can't be 9. So this is 6 or 7. Okay, so now if we look at the combination of those 3 digits, we know that there will be a 6 and a 7 in these 3 digits, because if this is a 6, there must be a 7 in the 10 cage. If this is a 7, there must be a 6 in the 10 cage. So there is a 6 and a 7, which means this square is a very difficult naked single, because there's 6, 7, 8, 9 in those squares, and 1, 2, 4 and 5 in those squares. So this has to be a 3. That's useless as well. No! You rotten thing. Sorry, that's no good at all. Well, I mean, it gave me a 3, but that's... what am I talking about? That 3 sees that square. It would help if rather than focusing on rows, I actually looked down columns occasionally. 6, 4... That means that's 7, that means that's 7. So actually this 3 was incredibly helpful. I mean, I've rarely seen a more helpful digit. This square is a naked single, because it can't be a 1 or a 2, and there are 6 digits in the column, so that's a 5. This must be a 1, 2 pair to complete the column. And... no. Okay, so now I do burn out of ideas. That's got to be 6, 8, and 9, I think, to complete the row. It can't be 8. And I've almost done all my palindrome now. I haven't figured out this 2, 4 pair. And I don't know very much about those 2 squares. Except this one is a bit restricted. Look, that can't be 5 digits. So it's got to be 3, 4, 6 or 9. And this square can't be 9, so it's 3, 4 or 6. There's probably a way of limiting that further, just not spotting it. Oh, there's something. Where is the 4 in box 4? Well, it's got to be in those two columns. Where's the 4 in this box? Well, it's in the same columns. So that means the 4 in box 1 of the grid must be in column 1. Now, doesn't that remove one of the possibilities for the 16 cage? I think it does. So the 16 cage now can't be 916 and it can't be 934. So this has become 259, which means that that's a 4, that's a 2, that's a 2, that's a 4, that's a 2. This is a 2 by Sudoku. This row needs a 7 and a 9 to finish it. Let's put that in. 259 here. This can't be 4 anymore because of the 4 here. So this has now become a 3-6 pair. And look, in this column we need to put, this square's got to be a 3 or a 6, and it can't be a 6. So this has to be a 3, this has to be a 6, this has to be a 6, this has to be a 9, that 8, that's a 6. 8 must go in one of those two squares. Those two squares, look, have got to be 3 and something. 3 and 4. That's not 5 anymore. Let's remove the pencil marks, do a bit of tidying up. Ah, 1, 2, 7 in this row. 1, 2, 7 in this row. So this triple is 1, 2 and 7. That's not 2. That matters because that means these two squares have got to be a 4, 9 pair. That matters because that means that square's a 3, that square's a 4. 3 must go here by Sudoku. These two squares are 6 and 9, which we can do. Looking at this column now, we need 1, 4 and 8. So this is a 4 or an 8. 1, 4, 8 up here. That can't be 8 looking at the pencil marks. If I trust those, yeah, that's right because of the 8 here. Oh, you know what I could do? I've just noticed those two squares are the beginning of the end of the palindrome, so they have to be the same digit. And look, I've got an awful lot done in this column. I still need to place 5. 5 just goes here by Sudoku. This is a 6, 7 pair, which means this square is a 6 or a 7. There's a 6 there. So that's a 7, that's a 7, that's a 6. That's a 7. This 10 box now must have a 1 and a 2 in it, and there's a 2 down there, so we know the order. That's 2, 1, 1, 7, 2. 3, 4 and 5 into these squares. This is not 2 anymore. The 1 can't go there, look, so the 1 must go here in this column. Therefore the 1 must go here in this column. This must be a 5 by Sudoku. That must be a 9. This must be a 2. And all of a sudden, it is going slightly better. I have to be honest. 9, 3. It's a fabulous puzzle as well. Really is absolutely superb. 4, 5 and 8. So this is a 4 or an 8. Ah, it can't be an 8. So in fact, that's a 4. That's an 8. That's a 4. Still need a 5 in the row. That must go there. This square should be fillable, innable. That's a 3. That's a 3. That square's got to be filled in. That's a 6, I think. That's a 4. So down here we need 7, 8 and 9. That's not 7 because of the 7 there. Now, have I done the whole palindrome now? No! I've still got these two to do. Oh no, I can do those though. There's a 3 here. So that's a 5. That's a 5. That's a 3. That 5 fixes the 5 and the 4, which fixes the 4 and the 9. These two squares have got to be 3 and 9. You can see we can fill that in now. Those two squares have got to be 1 and 8, which we can also do. That fixes the 9, 7, 8. That fixes the 9 here. And if I haven't made a boo-boo, we're looking at 6 and 7 into those two squares. It looks good to me. I think it's that. Check. Done. Beautiful puzzle again. Absolutely. I mean, some of these puzzles we're doing recently are just superb. And the thing I loved about this one was that the logic at the start was really unusual. Having to think about the palindrome and the way that we could extract information from it was really cool. So yeah, loved it. Hope you guys enjoyed it too. Let me know in the comments, of course. I do read them. And we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.